Hello and welcome to another video by Minifigs in Space. I am your host, Brian. Today, we are going to be the latest Blacktron recruits or prisoners, however you look at it, and jump aboard the Blacktron Cruiser for a mini overhaul. As you can see, I have this not so fine specimen of a Blacktron Cruiser that I picked up that is a little incomplete. However, it did have the Blacktron 2 minifigure with the fancy back printing, and the price was right, so I went ahead and purchased it, planning on upgrading it with my own parts in the future. And in case you haven't guessed it already, today is that day. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into upgrading the Blacktron Cruiser. I am going to be starting with the front end of the spacecraft and working towards the rear sections as we progress through our build. So, grabbing a brick separator and some random loose parts that I have in my collection, we are going to begin our journey by starting with some landing gear add-ons. After improving the bottom nose, I am going to start assembling both sides of the landing gear. The round, transparent red stud is going to be facing towards the back end of the cockpit section, and when you have snapped everything together, I would recommend folding up the landing gear for now. Now, if you like hidden flick-fire missiles, here is a good spot to put one. Moving on, my spacecraft was missing a tile right here on the side, as you can see, so I'm going to remove the existing one, if I can. You might have to, like me, remove the cockpit section. I am of the opinion that it is difficult to have too many guns on a Blacktron ship, so using a couple extra slopes to help smooth in the windscreen to the rest of the body, we are adding 2 more laser blasters. One thing that I have seen people complain about, and I will agree with them, is that the metal detector in the front seems kind of random. So I decided to modify the front cargo space by adding in a power core with a computer screen and repurposing the storage crate from the back cargo section into the front cargo section. And that wraps up the front module. So, moving on to the cargo section, the only modification I will be doing is adding some landing gear. The main purpose of the landing gear on the cargo pod is so that the main spaceship can be balanced when it's fully assembled. However, I also want this landing gear to work for the cargo pod as it stands alone. So, lining it up with the center yellow stripe as shown here should give it the perfect balance. And of course, combining the cargo section with the front module makes the spacecraft look pretty sweet on the landing pad. As for what to put into the cargo section, I created a small Blacktron satellite that can be deployed into the orbit of an alien planet. The last modules are the ones that I had to put a lot of bricks and thought into, because, well, these are the ones with the most missing parts. I had some grand plans for the tail fin module, so I decided to make the engine one a little bit longer and more detailed than the original. Now, if this was in a regular car, I would call this a 4-cylinder engine with a turbo. In other words, a small but powerful engine. For the tail fin section, I decided to make it a little more angular with some, wrong part there, other side. Anyway, with some extra yellow highlights. And what is fun about this tail fin module is that it can also be used as a drone. The design of this tail fin was inspired by some birds and how they fan out their back feathers before landing. If you have 2 of these parts in transparent red, I highly recommend using them as replacements for the rear wings. If you are like me and don't happen to have 2 of these in transparent red, then there is this other option you could consider. I think it would be nice to have a little variety, and hence I chose to do some radar dishes as the accessory wings. And what we have here is essentially the completed version of my upgraded Blacktron Cruiser. Now, one concern I did have was whether or not the radar dishes would interfere with the wings on the front module. I am happy to report that there is no interference from the wings closing upon the radar dishes. This is the case also with the landing gear when they go up and down. So one thing that was unintentional but I think is pretty cool is when the wings go in and out and they bump to the radar dishes, they bump down the radar dish arms very naturally. I think one of my favorite ways to display this is from the back angle, which is a little surprising to me because normally I like to have the spacecraft facing towards me when I pose them. Reflecting upon it further, I wonder if it's because it reminds me of a 5-pointed star with the top of the point being the cockpit. And with that, my friends, we have come to the conclusion of today's video. thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the upgrades I did for the Blacktron Cruiser. If you are new to this channel, I would like to invite you to subscribe. And if you are a returning viewer, thanks again for joining me today. Until next time, my friends, keep building your universe.